Welcome everyone to the clash between Hikaru Nakamura and Denis Lazarevic at the semi-finals of the Esports World Cup 2026. The two games between them have ended in draws and this is the third one. Hikaru has the white pieces. It's 10 minutes plus no increment. Look at the focus on Hikaru's face. And Denis Lazarevic, a young 19-year-old grandmaster from Belarus who has surprised everyone by beating Nodirbek Abdusattorov in the quarterfinals. Will he manage to topple Hikaru Nakamura? Only time will tell. Hikaru now with the white pieces begins the game here with the move pawn to c4, knight f6, knight c3. We have e5 by Denis playing in the center. You can think of this as reverse Sicilian. e4 played, grabbing the center but at the same time weakening the d4 square a bit. Bishop to b4 and d3 played by Hikaru. Pawn to d6, a3. Now do you take the knight or you drop the bishop back? He drops the bishop back. Hikaru plays h3 and short castle by black here. White plays pawn to g3 with the idea of bishop g2 and castles. We have a6 making space for the bishop to drop back. Bishop g2 and rook b8. What a nice idea. Usually pushing the pawn to b5 activates black pieces, so castles, and I believe he will play pawn to b5. Yes, Hikaru takes, pawn takes and b4 fixing the weakness of the b5 pawn. The bishop drops back and now king to h1. This move has the idea of moving the knight from f3 and playing the pawn to f4 to gain space on the king side. h6 played by Denis. Now bishop e3 offering a trade of bishops. If you take, I take with the f pawn, opening up the f file, and that's exactly what happens. And bishop d7 played. Hikaru jumps with his knight to h4. He's looking at the f5 square, and Denis now plays pawn to g6, stopping knight from coming here but at the same time weakening his king a bit. We have king h2 and the king comes up to g7. The rook takes the open file and now knight e7 played. Notice that sacrifices like rook takes f6 are possible. Pawn to d4, grabbing space in the center, and knight to g8. Wow, that's a bit passive, I must say. The knight was active on c6, goes all the way back to g8. But Hikaru plays his queen to d3, and we have pawn to c6, creating what Harshit Bhai likes to say the bathtub structure. Knight to f3 and queen comes to defend the pawn on e5. It's a very strategic, slow maneuvering game, but all of a sudden Denis attacks the a3 pawn, queen b2, rook e8, putting pressure on the e4 pawn now. And we have rook to f2, Hikaru trying to double on the f file, but knight h7, a wonderful maneuver here. This knight moves away for the other knight to come to f6. Excellent play. Knight e1 played here, but not a great move. Knight should have gone maybe to d1. Now bishop e6. Brilliant play. The bishop is coming to c4. Denis is making those little moves in the position just like how Anatoly Karpov would do it. Knight f3. He comes back but he's lost time. Hikaru trying to correct his mistake with coming to d2, but bishop c4 now. Attacking the rook on f1. The rook has to move. But where exactly should the rook go? He goes to a1. And now the knight can jump to g5. Yes, he plays it. Knight to g5. If you take, I take back. Opening up the h file. So the knight goes back to d2. Attacking the bishop. The bishop drops in. Attacking the pawn on e4. Queen to b3 play. Now f7 is just under the radar. But e4 pawn is hanging. Pawn takes pawn. Pawn takes pawn. Can he take the pawn on e4? It's actually guarded thrice. Attacked 5 times. But look at Denis's move. Queen a7. The d4 pawn cannot be defended. The queen goes back. And now Denis Lazarevic can take the pawn on d4. Exactly what he does. All of White's pawns are weak. Queen to e5. g3 is weak. a3 is weak. e4 is weak. Insane play. Knight to a5. He goes to c8. Defends the pawn on c6. Rook comes to c1. And now h5 played. He's already attacking the g3 pawn. You can't play h4. The knight will jump into g4. So he goes rook d1. The bishop takes the pawn. Knight takes. and the rook is attacked. Also the g3 pawn is attacked here. So queen takes queen, rook takes, rook c2. Hikaru is one of the best defenders in the world of chess, but right now he's 2 pawns down and it's not easy to salvage this position, but he's creating his counterplay. He's attacking c5 and d6. Rook comes up to c7 and now knight takes d6 is the idea. He takes the pawn, knight takes, rook takes, and c4 played. What an amazing play here by black, giving up one pawn but getting a passer here in the center. Rook d5, and should you trade on d5? Yes, he does, and Hikaru shaking his head. Denis Lazavic's knight is coming here to d4 to dislodge the rook which is defending the pawn. Hikaru pushes the pawn to a4, trying to destabilize this structure. But should you take on a4? No, he jumps first with the knight. Rook c3 takes, rook takes. And Denis can now trade, and a3 played. King comes to g1. He's trying to rush in with the king. Both kings coming into the position. Hikaru moves to e3, but now a check, and he misses this. King c3, and knight goes back to c6. The a pawn is alive. Black is still 2 pawns up. And how can Denis quickly convert it? 1 minute 20 seconds to him, 37 seconds to Hikaru. Denis's heart rate is 144 beats per minute. He looks calm, but he is very excited. He's going to beat Hikaru Nakamura and take the lead in the match. That's going to be huge. King goes back to b3, check, and the knight comes in, takes the pawn on g3, king e5, bishop goes back g5, and now the pawns are so strong. He comes king e3 and Hikaru resigns. What a game by Denis Lazavic. A positional masterpiece. It felt like we were seeing a young Karpov in action. Amazing play. Denis went on to beat Hikaru in the next game, in one of the next games, and took the match and beat Hikaru and reached the finals of the EWC. Let's look at what happened in the post-match ceremony. Look at the crowd there. Parham Maksudlu enjoying as the audience with his better half over there. Amazing play by the youngster from Belarus.
Confirms his spot in grand final, and it's time to proceed to the key exchange as Hikaru Nakamura must give his key up to the rightful victor of this match. Do we have the key for Hikaru? Yes, it is time, please. But as Hikaru has to bow out of the stage, please can I have a round of applause for Hikaru Nakamura? Denis, just wow. I mean, you had to beat Hikaru to qualify to EWC. You lost to Hikaru a couple of days ago, in that upper bracket, and you're back, revenge taken. How do you feel after so many matches against him?
Yeah, I feel great, and I think today I played really good, like much better than a couple of days ago. And yeah, like I think he didn't have any chance to win in any point. Obviously, he could make a draw in last game, and we would play like the last game, the sixth game. But yeah, he was playing for the win and even lost.
All right, and of course, one more game before you can lift that trophy. Grand finals tomorrow. That is, of course, your best result, obviously, at EWC. How are you pushing that for tomorrow? What are we doing tonight?
I will be rooting for Alireza because, I don't want to play against Magnus. But as I said, before the tournament, in one of the interviews, that it's very important not to be paired with Magnus too early, but I'm fine to play against him in final.
Ready for anyone? Listen, Denis, you know the way by now. To the crusher, to crush your opponent's gi. Ladies and gentlemen, make some noise for Denis Lazavic!
Oh yeah, Denis is in rare form, ladies and gentlemen. Taking the key to its rightful position. Denis, congratulations. My man's officially in the finals. I got a very interesting conversation to have with him after he crushed the legendary Hikaru Nakamura's key. I can't believe I'm even saying it. And just like that, at only 19 years of age. So Dennis, you can go ahead and let it go. You beat him, man. You got it. You can let it go. Okay, now Dennis, have you ever heard of an anger translator?
Excuse me?
I'm gonna take that as a no. Okay, Dennis, my question for you is this. Do you feel like anyone in this tournament is a huge threat to you right now?
Not really.
He don't even need an anger translator. I was about to hype it up for him. Only 19 years old, ladies and gentlemen, the youngest player that we had in our whole playoff bracket, and even still, he made it all the way to the finals, and we will see tomorrow if he is able to take it all the way. Ladies and gentlemen, we are not done yet, as we have one more match for our semifinal.